What's up, y'all? It's the Relentless podcast where we're stirring up passion and purpose for marriage.
That's right. We're diving into topics you always wanted to talk about. Real life, real struggles, real love, and real results. So what are we waiting for? Let's go in. Yo, welcome back, everybody, man. Back to the Relentless Love podcast. So great to be with you again, man. Y'all have been enjoying the ride so far? I hope y'all been enjoying the ride, man. Back with my lovely wife, Dominique Jones, myself, Brock Jones. Do y'all believe it's me? Do y'all believe it's me? Is it something
missing? It's something different.
What's different?
What do y'all think?
I don't know, man. Let me see. Feeling real light around here, man.
Is gone. Yes.
Come on, somebody. Come on, yes. Somebody say shift.
Shift. It's been what, about a week?
Yeah, about a week and a half, somewhere around in there, man. About a week and a half. I cut it February 3rd. Mm-hmm. February 3rd on Saturday night. Me and you.
Yep.
Me and you helped me out. The best hair wash ever. Oh my God. Like she was in there getting
Ladies,
it, man.
That's a good thing to do for your man.
It was great. It was great.
But it was a journey. How long was the journey, bro?
It was 9 years.
9 years.
9 years, man. 9 years of locks, man. Just going on a journey, self-discovery, really, man. Just wanting to get back to the roots of who I was, man. Just kind of getting the natural hair locking in, kind of doing some exploration of my spiritual walk as well, man. Just diving into the scriptures, diving in the Bible, seeing where our people came from. Wanted to see our people in the Word, man, and really just got a lot of information, a lot of growth. It was a fun journey, man. Had lots of concerts for those that know I was recording, performing, so I'm in there. Getting it, man, and built a lot of memories throughout that time, and it was great. It was great.
But you look good. Either way, it reminds me of when we met.
Come on, somebody.
So I'm enjoying it. But funny story. I used to tell Brock, don't grow your hair, because it's something about when you had braids before, not now. It was a good journey the last 9 years, but he just turned into this animal, y'all. I'd be like, who is, just cut it off. Don't do it. But no, the past 9 years, it was a good growth for you. So.
I'm a creature of change. I like change. So mind you, I cut it down to a little fro at first because she was loving the look, like, oh, your little curls.
Yes.
And then I went on down some more. So this probably in 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to have something else. I like to change it up. But yeah, it was a great adventure. I learned a lot, grew, and then moving into the back end of this year, it just felt like it was a shift happening. Yeah. And I took some time and saw God, man. It's like, God, what's going on with my season? Like you said, it's time to shift. Yeah. So I was like, snip, let's get it, baby. So.
And you asked what I thought, and I appreciated that. So that shows growth, which today we're going to talk about.
Come on, give a round of applause for that. I used to be a bonehead, but we've grown from there, man.
We have grown. And so we're going to talk about communication. We actually communicated about this. This was a big decision. And communication is so important in relationships.
Facts, man. I know y'all, those that listen to episode 1 and 2, here's your test. What did y'all see was the main issue? What? Come on, it starts with a C. Communication, man. We sucked at it, bro.
Yes.
We did not know.
Remember, I walked out. If you didn't see the episode, go back. Walked out of our first date. Like, it was bad. It was bad, y'all. So we're going to talk about why communication is important, the 4 dysfunctions of communication, how we've grown in communication. Yeah.
It's been good, man. Y'all know that communication is vital to any relationship, no matter what. Friendships, relationships where you're dating, from family members, work, in companies, man. You gotta be able to effectively communicate in order to be successful. And most times in marriages, which is the context of what we're talking about, that's the main issue, the root issue of everything is, can I talk to you? Can I speak to you? Yeah. Can I effectively let you know how I feel or what I want you to know about me? And a lot of times we just can't do it in a healthy way. And it's super common. Like, it's not some rare instance. Most people struggle with communication the same way we did.
Yeah. I think statistics show 60% of divorces end because of communication.
Right. Yeah. So we learn through trial and error, right? Through doing it wrong, right? And we learned that this is not the way we're gonna build a legacy in our family. And we had to get some help. We had to find out something, because otherwise we landed at divorce and getting ready to separate. But thank God that wasn't the end result. Yes. But we learned a few things along the way, which is this dysfunctional communication.
Yes. Now, I will say, obviously God held us together, but thankfully, like, our physical intimacy
Come
we
on.
were good.
Come on,
It
somebody.
held us down, but if we're honest, like that only lasts so long, right? So we had to grow. We had to mature beyond that.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
So this is what we learned as we've grown on this journey is that there's 4 typical types of dysfunctional communication, and we saw it like all throughout. Once we started learning this, we was like, bro, that's me, that's you,
Yes.
this is what we do,
At
right?
some point, we've done them all.
Yes. So it's fact fighting, it's withdrawing, it's escalating, and it's dishonoring.
Dishonoring.
I'll say that again. Fact fighting, withdrawing, escalating, escalating, and dishonoring. If you examine your relationships across the board and you see anything negative, anything toxic, anything confrontational, anything where it's like, this is not working, you're probably gonna land in one of those 4 buckets. And we landed in all of them pretty much for the most part. But I'll admit that, like, I'm the fact fighter for sure. Like, I'll raise my hand, you know what I mean? Like, yo, that's me. Fact fighting is when you get defensive and you want to figure out who's right and who's wrong. You got something to prove, right? And so we would have issues where something to come up. Who left the such and such out? Who left the toilet paper down on the side of the sink? Or who left this? Or who did this?
Yes.
And I would be the one to make sure I prove that it wasn't me.
Yes.
By recounting the whole situation, going stat to stat to stat to stat, and saying, no, this is the reason why it wasn't me.
Yes.
That's really not how to approach conversations in that type of way.
Well, it's not effective. What it is a war with words. And so you get caught up in the details and the weeds without getting to the heart of the matter, and you're not trying to hear the heart of your spouse. And so that's the issue with
Right. And I come from a background where, like, we want to prove what's right and what's wrong. We want to get in a war with words because we're passionate. Like, I'm a passionate person and I like to express myself, and I'm in the moment and I feel what I feel, and I want to, like, make sure that when we get done talking, you understand everything I have to say. And a lot of times that backs the other person in the corner, right? And in our context of our relationship, I would constantly back you in the corner to where you didn't have time to process anything.
Right. And I felt dominated. I didn't feel heard. Because I'm not as strong a communicator as Brock, it was overwhelming for me. And so I'm naturally one to withdraw because, one, it takes me time to process my thoughts to my mouth. It's just, I'm very strong, like, mentally and in writing, but verbal communication doesn't come as naturally to me. And so in those moments, I need to kind of withdraw to process. But what I learned was that it's nothing wrong with that, but I wasn't telling him, hey, I need time. Hey, I need space. But honestly, even when I did, he wasn't having it. He wasn't having it because he wants to deal with it now.
Right.
He wants to be understood. He wants to be heard.
Right.
And so with those 2 extremes, it was a recipe for disaster. I also felt like it was a waste of time. You're just arguing around a thing instead of getting to solution. And I'm all about solution.
Right. I think my intentions most times are good. Like, I think I want to arrive at understanding.
Right.
I do want to arrive at solution. I think our idea of how we get there is just
it's polar
just different,
opposite.
right? And I remember us having a conversation. I can't remember the context, but I remember you sharing with me at one point. You was like, I didn't come from a family where we dealt with stuff like that.
Yeah.
I came from a family where everybody just did not express how they felt at times like that. Like, so it wasn't very communicative in your family. And so as a result of that, that's your experience and what you've learned to do over time. And I had no recollection of that.
And also empathy. So it was so foreign. That was normal for me. What was normal for you was the passion, the tension. And so that's the challenge with marriage, is recognizing, like, one is not right and one is not wrong. They're different, but how do we meet in the middle? And we just never took the time to even talk through that. We didn't have the tools.
Right. And so I think, too, with lack of understanding of that, and then seeing you withdraw away from me, created another communication issue, because we getting into, okay, now you ignoring me, now you disrespecting me, now you don't want to honor that we're talking about this, and now we get into this silence mode, right?
Yes.
And then I'm going to lean into the second one, or the third dysfunction, which is escalation. Now I'm like, why Why you leaving the conversation that we
Yep.
can't? So my voice is going
Yep.
up. My anger levels and emotions are getting
Right.
more passionate. And that's not helping
Not at
anything at all. Do y'all see yourself in
Yes.
this? Is it just us, right? Is it
It's
just
not
us?
just us.
I'm sure it ain't just us, right? So you go in the room, I'm getting more and more mad.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I've even followed you in the room, like,
Oh,
really?
yeah.
You gonna go get in the bed and lay
Right.
down when we
Yes.
supposed to be talking about this?
Yeah, and the words then, I don't know, like I feel badgered, which is interesting because that's what your name means. But your intentions are good. You're trying to resolve it to get your heart right, but that's just not the way that's going
Right.
to work with me in the moment. So
Right.
we've definitely grown. I learned that my way, I even had a perception that my way was better. And we've learned through our training, it's not.
Facts.
They're all dysfunctional for a
Facts.
reason.
And it's actually interesting because in some ways we were actually doing some of the mediation training tips that we got. We just didn't understand it
Right.
and didn't know how to process it because it's actually effective to withdraw.
It is.
And
if
to
you
process
communicate.
if you
Yes.
communicate right. And so in hindsight, I should have been respecting the fact that you needed some time to process and you're not wired exactly like me
Right.
to want to be able to rapid fire, spit out right what's on your mind like that. You need time to absorb, think about it, come back later and say, hey, I went and thought about it, now here we
Yes.
are, right? But I just would never relent and let go. And it's effective to take a break,
Yeah.
especially when you see tension, and we didn't understand that. We didn't never really get into direct dishonoring because escalation is raising your voice. It's like really passionately pursuing and getting kind of like attack mode-ish with communication. We never crossed the boundaries so much into dishonoring and like I can't ever remember calling you out of your name. I can't ever remember threatening, hey, I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna do, like nothing like that. I don't ever remember that. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but
we had an indirect way of dishonoring. So I would say my withdrawing and then my attitude and my the resentment that I had towards certain things communicated dishonor, even if I didn't have the cuss words, even
Right,
if
right.
I didn't call you out or whatever.
Yeah.
It wasn't the words, but it was, which is kind of our next topic.
Yeah.
Nonverbal communication. I think experts say 70 to 90% of communication is
True.
nonverbal.
True.
And so it would be my looks. I'm sure y'all see it in the podcast. Some of it is who I am. But what's funny is you read more into my faces and body
Right.
language than I actually mean.
Yeah.
Like I could be focused on something, on a thought or thinking, because I'm always doing that. And it might look like I'm upset and I'm not. I'm just like, I have this scowl. I'm just focused.
Right.
And you will internalize it
Yeah.
and take it personally without asking me. You'll just jump
Yeah.
to a conclusion.
well, I'm a feeler.
He's a feeler.
Any feelers out there? Any discerning people? Like I'm a body language person, man. Like I'm always scanning and reading
Yeah.
rooms and doing that. I think I'm just wired like that. So when I see certain body languages, certain postures, certain things, my mind's already running. Like, what's she thinking about?
Right.
Like she laughing at me? You mad at me? Like you think
Right.
like my mind is there.
And there's truth to it. I mean, there's a science to it. I mean, corporate people, reading body language is a key skill, but making an assumption is where it's dangerous. So just ask, hey, honey,
Facts.
what's on your mind? It looks like,
Yeah.
it looks like you're a little
Right.
concerned.
But in the heat of the moment, right? When we
Yes.
keep it 100, that's just in the marriages, right? You have an issue, husband, wife, somebody come home, they do something, y'all get into a triggered argument, right? You're not immediately thinking about, I'm not just gonna assume nothing. You're reading the body language. You feeling the vibes in the room. So this is a normal instance where, okay, now I'm gonna get defensive. Why are you acting like that towards me?
Right.
I ain't do nothing, da. And then here the situation goes, she just go in the room. And now you're like, you just gonna walk out on me? You walk in the room and her body language is cold.
Yep.
Shoulder
Turn it
turn.
over.
Like
Yep.
this. You can't help but to naturally just think like, bro, she not rocking with me like that no more. She don't love me. She's upset.
Yeah.
She took this the wrong way and I can't even say nothing to her.
Yeah.
And then most times what that does, creates separation.
It does.
Now, think about it over time. If that happens 5, 10, 15, 20 times within your relationship, what do we expect to happen? Do we expect intimacy?
Right.
Can we expect positivity and like we in love, so much in love? That's just not going to be the case. And that was clearly evident within our marriage within those first couple of years. It was so toxic.
Yeah, there's so many relationships too that we hear. I mean, even for us, when you listen back to episode 2, like we both escalated. Where I used to withdraw and I pushed down, then the resentment built and built and built, and then it blew, like it almost blew up and it almost got ugly. Like it got me out of character. And so that's why withdrawing is not healthy, because we all need an outlet to express ourselves.
Right.
But what I would say, if you are a withdrawer, what I found was, because of things that I experienced coming up and not having that healthy model of communication, I didn't know how to associate words with my feelings. And so it's through a lot of like counseling, personal, individual counseling, that I learned to identify and be able to label what I was feeling. So it's in those moments, if you get overwhelmed with emotion and you need to back up, you need to find a way to like process and dig to get to not just the feelings, but what am I thinking?
Right.
And that's one of the things that we train couples in mediation is, what was I thinking before this happened? What was I thinking before I felt this?
Right. And that's important because that thinking basically dictates your behavior from there.
Yep.
And so when we get to the root of things, like, okay, my thought or my belief about this person or this situation, whether I believe it's accurate or not, it's actually controlling my actions moving forward. And those actions could be toxic, it could be negative, it could be physical, right? It could be anything. But at the end of the day, we want to be growing closer to each other in marriage versus doing things that's actually creating separation. For me, looking back, I was like, I had a pattern of wanting to handle things now and immediate and passionately, and I had a history of that, which is good in certain contexts from friendships. I think I heard in our podcast, like I came from friendships where we would just be like, oh, and it's fun and like very camaraderie type stuff. But I can't take that same approach to my spouse or in a relationship where if I do those things, it's triggering. Whether my intentions are good or not, if it triggers you, now I need to step back and say, this is not effective communication. Right. This is dysfunctional, and it's actually harming the one I love. It's harming the one that I want to be intimate with. And now I need to say, I got to approach this in a different way because this is dysfunctional. And I think when we take time to pause and do that, we can change our mindset around communication, and we can humble ourselves, which is what it takes. Humility and learning. There's a better way to do this. And then recognizing when triggers are happening and say, can we just pause for a minute? And that's what we've been learning through our mediation is you got to pause for a second and give yourself time to think and process.
Right. Yeah, and for me, so one thing I was actually trying to honor you in that growing up, I said things because I had so much hurt and anger and frustration. I could say things even without using profanity. Like I could say something to cut somebody in half, right? And so I was hesitant to say anything to you until I had time to process, because I knew, and also knowing your personality. Right.
And love language too.
Like you take things, especially my words, like as your wife, my words carry probably more weight than anybody in our relationship now, where your parents, it might have been growing up, but now I'm the human person, apart from God, that my words can either build you up or tear you down. And so I would rather wait. I don't want to, in the heat of a moment, say something that, sorry, is not going to take back. And as a man, I didn't want to cut you in half with my words, because I'm a strong woman. I have my opinions, and so I'd rather wait, but I didn't recognize that in that time, it was actually making you feel disrespected. It was making you feel that. So that was a dance that it took a while.
That's big, because men, our top need is respect, right? But men, if we get down to the core of it and just keep it real, like our feelings matter, and what women say to us or think 100%. About us, it affects our like security, right? We just got to keep it real with that. Like the woman closest to us, if she say something about how we look or about how we smell or how we're acting, like anything, right? Like whatever, like, you know, even to physical, you know, sex and all that kind of stuff. Like we try to act tough and macho and hard, but what women think or say about us, it cuts. And so that's true. Is like the affirmations or the words that cut like a knife. Yeah. Whether we agree in the moment or not, we're going to go in the other room and be like, dang. Mm-hmm. Man, she just really, you know, disrespected me, or she really just like talked about me and bruised my ego like that, right? And it affects us moving forward, and that's definitely truth to that. But we gotta learn how to like process those moments out of what's reality and what's just emotional vomit. Right. And I think sometimes we can we can get to the point where in the heat of the moment, our emotions controlling more of our behavior versus our logic and thinking, and we can emotionally just go like, oh. Yes. And when we dump all that nastiness on somebody, you already know what that's gonna cause.
I actually heard it recently, like it could be vomit or diarrhea. Oh. If we're honest, like, you know, we choose one, or no, it was emotional diarrhea or constipation. So I lean on the
more
side.
hold in versus
I would hold it back and then
and that was the jewel. That's real.
Was,
Talk about 100%. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I tended to, I'm gonna just hold it in. I'm gonna just hold it in and not deal with it. But that's not healthy for you. Right. Like your body is meant to flow. Same with emotions. They need to come out in a healthy way, in a safe space. And I didn't feel safe enough to share it because you not understanding. And we were just young, y'all. We were immature. We didn't have the tools. So I didn't feel safe to share. I felt like you would judge me or you would use it against me. You would bring it up later. Yeah. And so I was the constipated one. You were just diarrhea about a mouth. I'm going to tell you everything I feel. I don't care what you think about it, how it makes you feel. Listen, our spouse cannot handle everything we have to say. We need to learn how to process with God. We need to learn how to process with a counselor. That's real. And get it packaged right before we present it to a person, because you cannot take back those words. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I remember nights where you was rolled over and I'm like, hey, when we going to talk about this? Yeah. I was still ready to continue vomiting, and it was like, bro, stop. Like stop. She can't take no more. Like, roll over or go process. Yeah. Find a way to process, which I think is very key, what you just said. Like, we got to go process somewhere. Wherever your faith lands, wherever your belief system lands, like, for me, I need to go talk to the Lord. Yeah. And a lot of times I didn't do that. He has the answers. He has the key to her heart. He has the solutions to the problems at hand. And if I'm trying to take it on my own initiative and handle it myself by force or by consistency of doing it the way I want to do it, well, he said, man, I'm going to take my hands off of it. Yeah. You get the results you want. Yeah. Instead of going and getting the right mind frame, renewing my mind and saying, what's really going on here? How can I approach my wife to make sure that she's safe, to make sure she feels accepted, to make sure she feels heard and valued, and that there's a peace of mind around a conversation versus conflict? And a lot of times we just don't stop and do that. And that's important. Those are some of the keys that we've learned along the way, because like I said, in the first part of our marriage, we didn't know we weren't having any of these type of conversations where it was solution based. It was just my way, my way, my way. And now I think over time we've learned that there is a better way. Yeah. And I would say our dynamic is interesting because usually women, not always the case, but women sometimes can be the ones with more words, you know, and sharing, oversharing. And I remember as you were sharing that, I remember even feeling like I needed to get in a fetal position because you kept pushing. And so I just want to say to women, in this case, he's sharing, but women, we can have that same effect on a man. And he may not physically feel like he's in a fetal position, but on the inside, he feels like he's not enough. Whatever he does isn't enough. He's not a good man. He needs to hear from you that he is, even if he's not doing it right. And that's hopefully from episode 2, you got that. I had to learn to love and respect and appreciate where Brock was and his effort. He was doing the best he could. Right. And so when we've done that, now we've grown together. Yes. Let's talk a little bit about tone.
Oh,
because
yeah.
that's a big one for us.
Man,
And then
I
we can
still
shift to-
struggle with that, man. Like
We both do.
I'm confused now. Don't you be thinking that we got like I don't know, but I know a little bit. But I'm still like, well, what's up? And tone is very unique because you can't internally hear your own tone,
Yeah.
so to speak. Other people hear your tone, and so in my experiences, I'm thinking I'm being gentle when I'm talking. And my excuse, which I'm starting to learn that it probably is an excuse. I think it's valid, but I think it's probably not. So I'm still in limbo. But it's just like I say, it's just my voice. This is how my voice sounds. Like I don't know
This is
how
who I
else to
am.
change this. This is who I am. So how can I change who I am when this is how my voice sounds? But there's science to it, and there's a reality that tone can be controlled. And I'm learning that I can say something and think I have the greatest tone and I'm being nice and gentle. And the perception is that I'm mad, I'm upset, I'm angry. And I walk away feeling misunderstood when in reality, it was the tone of what I said that made the difference versus what I said.
Right.
And that's a huge struggle, but it's so important. It's so important.
That's huge. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And, you know, as we mentioned, the nonverbal communication, the facial expression, the body language, but the tone, more importantly, tone kind of conveys the heart behind it. So you could literally say two different things with two different tones, and it communicates something totally different. And for women, that's a big thing. So that was a huge barrier for us. It still is, even with our kids. Like I struggle with that. Right. You know, I'm this, suck it up, like what you crying for kind of thing. Right. And I'm learning, like, for us to create an atmosphere for open communication, it has to be non-judgmental. Right. It has to be safe. It has to make the person feel like they're being heard and not judged. And so what it means is, if I can't control my tone, let me just be quiet. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Bible is true, like be quick to listen and slow to speak. Right. Just listen and don't listen with, okay, I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna come back with that. Mm-hmm. Actively listen and try to hear the heart, not just the words. Right. Yeah. And ask questions to understand. I think that's just been the biggest growth for us is no matter how long you've been with a person, there is room to learn more. True. Because we are evolving and changing, and we have to master the art of asking questions. Right. Because that makes your partner, your spouse, feel valued. Yeah. Feel like you're pursuing them because you're taking interest in them. I want to understand you. What did you still say it? You're a mystery.
She's a mystery, man.
I mean, you are too. When I think I have you figured out, like we never have each other figured out. And I think most men feel that way. Yeah. But that's not a bad thing, right? God is a mystery. Yeah. That's how God uniquely designed women differently from men. And so as which we have, is taking time, but like learning to embrace even those differences in how we communicate, and not as one is wrong and one is right. Right, yeah. I mean, that makes it fun. I mean, if I just had Dominique figured out, I'd be, like I told you, I like change. I'd be bored. Like, well, what's next to do? Like, that's always a challenge to like, man, I wonder what she's thinking. How can I make her laugh today? How can I make her smile? How can I figure out how to not make her angry and be pissed off at me next night? And it's a journey, it's an adventure, but it's a growth within us, because I see growth in both of us actually being the opposite of what we started out being. Yeah. You're talking more. Then normally you would just be more, now you're more expressive and you feel more safe and more vulnerable. I think because we built intimacy and learning how to communicate to where you will express how you feel more. Mm-hmm. And now I'm kind of shutting up. I'm like, I ain't gonna say nothing. Let me chill. Yeah. I'm gonna chill and just listen. I'm gonna ask questions. I'm gonna try to be more thoughtful in my responses and more calculated in my responses. And that has led to more intimacy because you feel safe. Mm-hmm. I feel safe, you feel heard, I feel heard, and we're arriving at solutions on how to better communicate to push our marriage forward versus just trying to be right, wrong, who's this, who that, and doing what's natural to us, which a lot of times our natural leads to negative experiences. Yeah. And so that's been such a blessing. I just want to thank you for
allowing me space to grow, allowing me space to learn, especially through our mediation training and learning these skills that we got through XO Marriage has been game changing for us.
It has. So let's talk about some practical ways to improve, or what does it look like to have healthy communication?
It looks peaceful.
Yeah.
I mean, I say that even with conflict, because you can have conflict, but it ends in peace.
Yeah.
We can have triggers, and what it looks like is instead of us just instantly engaging and reacting, it's more thought provoking. Like, what is this situation and what's going on here first? And what am I thinking about this situation? And what is it causing me to do first? Because we can start on something and then it goes somewhere. And if we don't hit the pause button to stop and say, what am I thinking? I think that's what's been the biggest game changer for me, is just being able to analyze the circumstance and not just respond or react, but actually step back and be calculated in how I approach a conversation. Because initially I would just go right in and not stop. But once I go in and I hear something that's like, wait a minute, this is not going anywhere, let's stop, step back. And that's been a really, really game changer for me in learning.
Yeah. I would say in communicating specifically about conflict, like, we don't have to hash it out in the moment. I think we don't, or what we have to do is take time to be proactive and, like, in a calm environment, in a non-threatening moment, to talk about things that maybe have been bothering us. Because in the heat of the moment, both of our emotions are flared up, our lid flips. Counselors will say, like, you're not rational, you're not gonna have a rational response. So, like, don't just wait until it's happening, write it down and circle back to it. And come up with a plan. You know, frustration is a lack of planning. Like, let's talk about what we wanna see. And just, I think, having grace. Like, we have to have grace with each other. You know, you thank me, but I thank you. Like, I realized, man, I'm not healthy. There's a reason that I shut down every time, and I don't know why. So I need to get help for that. It's not just on him.
That's big.
I had to take ownership of that.
That's big.
And though I, for years, had grown spiritually in, okay, I know the word says this, I know I need to do that. We are still a mind, body, and a spirit. I had to deal with my soul, my emotional baggage, and learn how, because that's why I couldn't articulate words. That's why I would be gripped with certain emotions that took me back to a child. And in that moment, I can't talk to you. I want to talk to you. I know I need to talk to you, but I cannot. And even if I could, I don't have the words for it. So I needed help with that. And we need to be honest and real with ourselves, both women and men. And also being gracious and patient in seasons. Like, I'm going through a grief season again right now. You know, it's just celebrating 2 years of my mom passing. So we had a conflict and we know what to do. I was like, honey, I don't even know how long we need to unplug. I'm just not in a good emotional space. But I was able to communicate it. I had the language and the tools to say, honey, I'm just not right now. Pray for me.
And I was able to receive. And it's weird. What I said was big, and I know we're gonna wrap up here in a second, but it's big to acknowledge, like, I have some wounds. I have some areas where I'm unhealthy, and that's okay, because we're not perfect, and being gracious, because we both have areas where we know there's some stuff there that hasn't been healed yet, hasn't been fully processed yet, and we're in the journey of healing and processing, and being able to be aware of that and not, like, poke at a wound that ain't fully scab over or healed. It's like, my wife hurting right now. She don't need this. And being aware of that. And also the importance of not just leaving it in the corner forever, but having a time to circle back around, because sometimes we can ignore conversations that need to be had. And I think that's the importance of saying, hey, not now, but we're going to eventually circle back around and talk about it. And that's what you did for me recently. It's like, babe, not right now. I got some stuff, but we'll get to it. And so that's important, man. We've learned a lot, and we're so grateful, man, to be able to not be in that first 1-2 year process where we was just, and we want to help other marriages, man. And that's the whole reason of us getting certified and like really tapping in what I meant about our mediation training. And we want to be able to provide tools and resources to other couples.
Yeah, so if you're struggling, first of all, we want you to know that struggling with communication is normal. I hope you feel that. It can feel like, man, are we even speaking the same language? Like, I feel like I'm on this page in this chapter, and it feels like you're in chapter 10. And it's partly because we're wired differently, but also like we come with things that can taint our perception and literally twist the words, and we may not recognize that our spouse is not understanding. So if you need help with that, we want to work with you. We offer coaching, mediation. This workbook is full of tools that not even in our session, but you get to take it home, and you have a roadmap to help you navigate healthy communication and healthy conflict resolution.
Right. Conflict's inevitable, man, but we can get through it and make it better. Get some more intimacy in there, man. Thank y'all for journeying with us, man. We just getting started, man. It's gonna be fun moving forward. Love languages, man. What y'all know about it? I think we're gonna dive into it next, man. Y'all stay tuned with us, lock in, follow, subscribe, hit us up. If you need to set up a discovery call with us, feel free to hit up our lines of communication. We would love to connect with you, man. Important to your marriage, man. Much love from us to you.